Welcome to AuthorpreneurTV, the real talk about what it takes to be a professional author in the digital age. I'm Jennifer Blanchard. I'm an author and a story development coach. I work with emerging novelists who want to write kick-ass books and get them published. So today I wanted to tell you about something that I wish I had done earlier in my journey to being an authorpreneur, the one that I am today. So something really important, and that's having an email list. Now, when I was first starting out online, this was back in 2008, I had my first blog on there. I didn't have an email list. I didn't have any subscribers. I think I had like 25 readers by the end of the year. It wasn't a whole lot of people. But in my first year, the whole goal I had was just to get consistent with writing and just to publish blog posts at least once a week. And so I didn't really think about any of that other stuff. But then 2009 came around and I had been following Copyblogger for a year, and I was really excited about their content, and I had this idea for a guest post, something that I thought they would just really love to have on their site. And at the time, Twitter was just starting to become the big social media thing, and so I actually wanted to write this article called How Twitter Makes You a Better Writer. And so I pitched Brian Clark, the editor of Copyblogger. I pitched him via email, and he immediately wrote back. I think it was like less than an hour. He wrote back and he was like, I want that article. And so I was like, holy crap, like this is cool, So I wrote the guest post and I sent it to him. And then the next day it was live on Copyblogger, which was crazy. I didn't even know it was happening. Like I literally was sitting at my desk at work. I was still working my corporate job, and all of a sudden my phone started pinging and all these comments were coming in, and I was like, what's happening? Like I didn't know what was happening. And so I went to my email and it said, you have a comment on your Copyblogger post. And I was like, what Copyblogger post? And so I went to the blog and I saw it there, and I was just like, wow, he really used it. Like, that's awesome. And so the cool thing was that, you have a link in your bio, in your author bio, to your website, which is cool, except I didn't have an email list. So, I knew about email lists, but I didn't know that, I needed to have one. I didn't really know too much about why I needed to have one, so I didn't have one. And what ended up happening was 5,000 plus people came to my blog that day from the Copyblogger article and checked out my blog. Think about that now. 5,000 people on my blog. And I think I got a few hundred of those people joined my RSS feed, so they were basically subscribed to my blog. They would be getting RSS updates. This was back when RSS was the way to be subscribed to a blog. And then I also had, just people who came, checked it out, maybe they left a comment on something, and that was it. The problem was there was no way for them to stick to my blog. So there was no way for them to keep in contact with me, keep, listening to what I had to say and talk, paying attention to the articles I was putting out there. There was no way for them to do that. They were interested in getting more from me. There was no way for them to do that other than to follow the blog itself, which is a huge mistake, because something you need to remember, and for me especially at the time, my blog was built on not WordPress. It was built on Blogspot, which is owned by Google. And so basically I had this blog that I had written all this content on. Well, I didn't technically own any of it. I owned the content as far as I wrote it, it was mine, but I didn't own the blog. So if, Google decided to take it down, decided to shut it off, they could, and I couldn't do anything about it. And so the email list, on the other hand, would be something that no matter what happens, it's yours. No one can ever take it away from you. And then, of course, if you have a self-hosted WordPress site or something like that, now I have a self-hosted site, so of course I own it. But I didn't back in 2009. So big mistake that I was making early on. And so don't make the same mistake that I did. Definitely be thinking about an email list. So if you are just getting started, if you don't have a website yet, then you probably don't need an email list, obviously. But I would recommend, as soon as possible, getting a web presence going, because the thing you want to remember is maybe you are only in the stages of developing your story right now, or maybe you're just writing it, but you don't want to wait until you've got the book published to start having your author presence built. So you really need to start thinking about having a website now, getting some social media accounts up there, and then just adding content to stuff on a regular basis. Because now, if you do it, by the time your book comes out, you've got enough of, content out there. You may even have a following at that point. So start early, and especially start early with your email list. So for people who are new to this, an email list is basically just a way for people who want to hear more from you or want to stay in contact with you. They can opt in to be on your email list, and then you can send them email and you send it as one email, so you don't have to send it individual to each person, but you send one email and it goes through an email system, and then people can keep in contact with what you're doing, and they can pay attention to the stuff you have going on and all of that. So now, how do you get an email list? There are a lot of different service providers out there. I personally started with Aweber, which I loved and thought was a really good service, but it does cost money. So if you're looking for something free or really low cost, I would recommend checking out MailChimp. They actually have a free version that you can use until you get a certain number of subscribers, and then you have to start paying. I currently use ActiveCampaign, which I really like because I think their automations are pretty cool. So how do you use your email list? So once you've got an email list set up, so how you do this is you basically sign up for your service provider, you get your email list set up in the back end of the system, and then you connect it to your WordPress site or your website, your blog, whatever you have out there. And now people can opt in. Now the way to get them to opt in is to create something free that they want to download or that they want to check out. So it can be anything. I mean, this is really up to you. The sky's the limit when it comes to this, but what you want to think about is, what is it that your site is all about? What kind of content do you cover? What topics or things are you, representing on your site? Because that's what you want your freebie to relate to. So for example, let's say you're a travel blogger. Maybe your freebie is, a list of 10 places people need to visit right now. Or maybe it's, your tips. It's maybe a cheat sheet for how to travel across Europe for under $100 a day, or whatever you want to create. Now for me, because I have a writing site and my blog is all about writing, my freebie is actually a story structure cheat sheet that people can download that will give them a walkthrough of what story structure is and how to use it. And of course, it also puts them into an email sequence where they get a series of emails that give them more information about story structure. That's an advanced thing. We'll talk about that later. The idea here is just have some sort of freebie. So something that people can download. It doesn't have to cost you money to create. You can use things like Canva to create it. I mean, that's a free program. You can use PicMonkey, and it's just an easy way to create something. Your download really should just be something that relates to you as an author or as a writer. It could be if you have a book out or that's coming out. It could be the first chapter of your book, or it could be, the section of your book all the way up to the first plot point. So get them really interested in getting the book because they're going to be hooked and they're going to want to keep reading the rest. It can be anything. And so think about the people that you're trying to attract to your email list and to your books, and think about what they would want, and then create that and make that your freebie. So then how that happens is they opt in for the freebie, and then they are able to now take the freebie, use it however they want, and then they're on your email list. So now you're able to send email to them whenever you want to. And so you basically just go in your email system and you send out an email to the list that you have set up, and then everybody who's subscribed gets the email. The cool thing is that there's ways to personalize it so it looks like each person is getting a personalized email from you. But they're not, which is, the cool thing about email lists and, of course, having a service provider. What you don't want to do is collect people's email addresses by hand and then send emails through like Gmail or Hotmail. You don't want to do that. And the reason is because, number one, it's really unprofessional. It doesn't look very good. Number two, because of the Spam Act, you actually have to legally be, and it depends on your country, of course, so definitely check the regulations for your country. But for America and in the United States, you have to have a double opt-in, which means people have opted in on your site. They put their name and email in, they hit submit, and then they click the confirm link that goes to their email. And that's why you have to have a service provider and not just use Gmail, because the service provider will automatically make it so that they have to double opt in. And then the other thing is, every time your emails go out, it will actually have an unsubscribe link at the bottom. And that's there because people have to be able to unsubscribe from something if they don't want to get it anymore. They can't do that, of course, if you send them email from Gmail. So that's why you have to do it through a service provider. Like I said, MailChimp is free, so that's a good one to start with. Okay, so then the other thing is, once you've got your list, send emails frequently. So maybe at this point you don't have a lot of stuff to say, but definitely try to send an email once a week if you can, because you don't want people to forget about you. So you got this awesome freebie, and now they need to keep hearing from you, because if they don't, they're going to forget about you, and that's going to be it. So send them an email at least once a week. Just tell them, what you're up to. Talk about your process, your book maybe. Talk about what you've been doing. Share some personal information about yourself with them so that they can get to know you as an author. Because the more they know you and they like you, the more they're going to want to buy your book and read your book. Or, subscribe to your blog or all that stuff. So definitely do those things. And if I could go back and do one thing that would change probably a lot of stuff for, my business, it was getting an email list much earlier than I did. So definitely be thinking about doing that now, even if you're only in the beginning stages, or even if you're only in, the I'm writing my story stages. And don't spend a lot of money at this point. So, again, get as many free resources as you can in the beginning, because it doesn't make sense to spend money until you're making money, or at least spend money until you're in a place where you're going to publish your book soon and you'll be able to make some money back. Free stuff is great, so definitely check free stuff out before you do anything else. If you have questions, I would love to answer them for you. Just leave them in the comments below and I will get back to you. Thanks for joining me for this episode of Authorpreneur TV, and I'll catch you next time.